Get off the road, you pauper! Why did you do this to me?
The morning air was heavy with mist, and the cracked pavement glistened with the leftovers of last night's storm. Aaliyah Brooks, a 25-year-old woman with determined eyes, adjusted the strap of her small thrift store bag as she walked briskly toward her job at Jefferson Grand Hotel. Inside her bag sat a half-wrapped biscuit for breakfast and a worn pair of rubber gloves she used for cleaning. Her navy uniform was neat but faded from too many washes, and her sneakers squeaked with every step, the soles nearly worn thin. Still, she carried herself with quiet pride. She had learned long ago that dignity was free, even when money wasn't. As she reached the main road, the growl of an engine broke the silence. A sleek black Lexus SUV came tearing down the lane. Aaliyah barely had time to move when the vehicle plowed through a deep puddle. With a sharp splash, a torrent of dirty rainwater covered her from head to toe. Her face, her clothes, even the breakfast she carried, ruined in seconds. The SUV didn't stop. Instead, the tinted window lowered, revealing a woman in a fur-trimmed coat with oversized sunglasses and red lipstick that gleamed like fresh paint. She laughed, a sharp, mocking sound that cut deeper than the cold water soaking Aaliyah's skin. "Next time, don't stand so close to the curb," she shouted before the car roared away. Aaliyah froze, her lips trembling, her eyes burning from humiliation. But she refused to cry. She picked up her dripping bag, wiped her face with her sleeve, and kept walking. Every step squished with mud, but her spirit refused to break. Across the street, another car had been parked quietly. Inside, Malik Carter, a man in his early 30s with a sharp gaze, had witnessed the entire scene. The splash, the laughter, the humiliation etched on Aaliyah's face. His jaw tightened. He recognized the woman in the Lexus, Sierra Whitfield, daughter of a wealthy developer and known for flaunting her privilege. She had a reputation for cruelty disguised as charm. Malik narrowed his eyes. He was not a man who believed in letting injustice pass unnoticed. He picked up his phone and spoke with calm authority. "Find out who that young woman is. I want every detail." By the time Aaliyah arrived at Jefferson Grand Hotel, she looked as though a storm cloud had followed her all the way there. Her uniform was streaked with brown stains, her hair clung to her damp forehead, and her shoes squeaked with each step. At the side entrance, her supervisor, Mr. Howard, frowned sharply. "You're late, and what on earth happened to you?" he barked. Aaliyah lowered her head. "A car, it splashed water on me. I tried to clean up." "No excuses," he snapped, cutting her off. "The ballroom must be spotless before guests arrive. Get to work immediately." She nodded silently, biting back her frustration, and walked toward the supply closet. Some of her coworkers glanced her way. A few shook their heads sympathetically, but none offered to help. She changed into an old backup uniform she kept in her locker, tied her hair into a bun, and began scrubbing floors as if nothing had happened. But inside, Aaliyah's heart was heavy. She thought of her younger sister, Naomi, still asleep in their cramped one-room apartment in South Ridge. She thought of the bills stacked on the counter, the job she couldn't afford to lose, and the dream of something more that felt impossibly out of reach. Meanwhile, Malik sat in his office on the top floor of a glass tower downtown. He wasn't just any man. At only 33, he was one of the youngest CEOs in the city, a quiet billionaire who preferred to observe before making his moves. His assistant entered, handing him a folder. "Her name is Aaliyah Brooks, 25 years old, works 2 cleaning jobs, lives in South Ridge with her little sister Naomi. Their mother passed 3 years ago, no father listed." Malik studied the photograph clipped inside. Aaliyah, smiling softly beside a small child. He tapped the edge of the photo thoughtfully. "She didn't deserve that," he muttered under his breath. His assistant hesitated. "Do you want me to intervene?" Malik's eyes stayed on the photo. "Not yet. For now, we watch." Across the city, Sierra Whitfield admired herself in the floor-to-ceiling mirror of her penthouse suite. Gold hoops dangled from her ears, and her phone buzzed constantly with messages from stylists, brand partners, and socialites vying for her attention. She smirked, sipping her almond milk latte. "That girl shouldn't have been standing so close to the road," she said with a laugh. "Honestly, she's lucky I didn't ruin more than her clothes." Her personal assistant, Kendra, gave a weak chuckle. "Right? Lucky. Sierra flipped her hair back. In her mind, life was divided into winners and losers, and she was born to win. Back at Jefferson Grand Hotel, Aliyah worked tirelessly, her back aching each time she bent to mop the floor. Yet she whispered small prayers under her breath, one more day. Just get through today. At lunch, she sat on a wooden crate behind the building, eating a small sandwich she had packed herself. Her fingers trembled slightly as she unwrapped it. Just then, a man passed by, dressed in casual clothes and wearing a baseball cap. It was Malik. He pretended to scroll through his phone, but his sharp eyes were fixed on her. He saw the way she ate quietly, the way she checked her phone for missed calls, probably waiting for Naomi's school update. He noticed her simplicity. No makeup, no glamour, only strength wrapped in gentleness. Something about her stirred a memory of his late mother, a woman who had worked as a seamstress and raised him alone without complaint. Malik turned and walked away slowly, but his mind was already working. She doesn't know it yet, he thought. But her story is about to change. The next morning, Aliyah woke before sunrise. The sound of the old radiator in their apartment rattled in the silence as she tied Naomi's shoelaces, packed her school lunch, and smoothed her little sister's hair into 2 neat braids. "Be good at school, okay?" she said softly, kissing Naomi's forehead. Naomi grinned, her small backpack bouncing as she nodded. "You too, Leah. Don't let anybody make you sad." Her words warmed Aliyah's chest. With one last hug, she hurried to catch the bus to Jefferson Grand Hotel. She wore her backup uniform again, as the one ruined by the splash still soaked in a bucket at home. When she reached the staff locker room, something unusual caught her attention. Inside her locker sat a small brown paper bag. Frowning, she opened it carefully. Inside were a brand new pair of gloves, a warm breakfast sandwich wrapped in foil, and a folded note, for the woman who carries herself with grace even when the world isn't kind. Aliyah blinked in surprise. Her eyes darted around the locker room, but no one seemed to be watching. With trembling fingers, she unwrapped the sandwich. Steam rose, and the scent of fresh eggs and cheese filled her nose. She hadn't had a hot breakfast in weeks. She closed her eyes, whispered a quiet thank you, and ate slowly, savoring every bite. Far across town, Malik leaned back in his leather chair. On the monitor in front of him, security footage from the hotel's cameras showed Aliyah's reaction. He had access through one of his firm's security partnerships. He watched her smile faintly for the first time in days and nodded. "Small steps," he murmured. Meanwhile, Sierra Whitfield was glowing on a morning talk show. The host praised her new handbag collection, calling her one of the most stylish entrepreneurs in the city. Sierra smiled for the cameras, her charm flawless. But as soon as the cameras switched off, her mask dropped. "My coffee was too cold," she snapped at her team. "Who hired that intern? Fire her immediately." No one dared argue. That was Sierra's world. Chilly, demanding, and merciless. But across town, a different world was shifting. That afternoon, Malik made another phone call. His voice was calm but firm. "Promote her," he instructed the hotel's regional manager. "Do it quietly." The manager stuttered in disbelief. "Sir, she's only a cleaner." "She's not only anything," Malik interrupted sharply. That evening, Aliyah was sweeping the hotel's marble lobby when Mr. Howard approached with his clipboard. "Brooks," he barked, glancing down at his notes. "Starting tomorrow, you'll be on the VIP floor. Better pay, less workload, don't mess it up." Aliyah blinked, stunned. "Sir, are you sure? I never applied." "It's already approved," he cut her off. "Congratulations." She bowed her head, whispering a shaky, "Thank you, sir." As she walked away, she overheard whispers from other staff. "VIP floor? Huh?" She must know somebody. Things like that don't just happen. Their words stung, but she kept silent. That night at home, when she told Naomi the news, her little sister squealed with joy and threw her arms around her. "See, Leah? Good things do happen." Aliyah smiled for the first time in weeks, holding her sister tight. The next morning, she stepped into the VIP corridor of Jefferson Grand Hotel for the first time. Everything felt different. The air smelled faintly of fresh flowers, the walls glowed with polished marble, and the carpets were so soft her footsteps barely made a sound. She lowered her head, determined not to draw attention, and began her work. Every surface she touched shone, every corner sparkled. She worked with quiet precision. From a lounge chair nearby, a man observed her closely. It was Malik again, dressed casually in jeans and sunglasses, pretending to read a newspaper. He noticed the way she smiled politely even at guests who ignored her presence, the way she carried herself with dignity, no matter how invisible others tried to make her. At last, he stood up and approached. "Excuse me," he said in a low voice. "Do you know where the Sky Terrace is?" Aaliyah turned, surprised by the tall stranger's presence, but gave a small, polite smile. "Yes, sir. I'll walk you there." As they moved through the quiet corridor, Malik asked, "How long have you been working here?" "Almost 3 years," she replied softly. "It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills." He nodded, watching her. "Do you enjoy it?" She hesitated, her eyes dropping to the gleaming floor. "No one dreams of cleaning rooms, but I'm thankful. I try to do my best." He stopped, looking directly at her. His voice was soft but firm. "You don't just do your best. You shine." Aaliyah gave a nervous laugh. "Thank you, sir, but I think you're giving me too much credit." Malik didn't reveal who he really was. Not yet. He only smiled faintly and allowed her to walk away. But as she disappeared into another room, his chest tightened with a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time. That night, Sierra sat across from her father in a private dining hall, her flawless appearance hiding a flicker of unease. "Someone's targeting me," she said bitterly, swirling her wine. "First, a photo of that stupid puddle incident shows up in my office. Now people are whispering online. It's like there's a campaign against me." Her father, a stern-faced man in an expensive suit, calmly sipped his drink. "Or maybe," he said, "someone's just holding up a mirror." Sierra's jaw tightened. "I haven't done anything wrong." But deep inside she knew she had left a trail of broken spirits behind her, and for the first time she felt the weight of it. Back at Jefferson Grand, Aaliyah found another surprise in her locker, a small bouquet of fresh daisies with no note attached. She held them close, confused yet touched. Whoever was watching her, it didn't feel like harm. It felt like help. But the more she rose, the more eyes turned her way. Some admired her. Others grew cold. Among them was Tanya, a senior cleaner who had worked at the hotel for 6 years. She watched Aaliyah's sudden promotion with bitterness simmering in her chest. First week on the VIP floor and she's already got management's attention? Please. She must be doing something behind the scenes, Tanya muttered to the others. Aaliyah felt the stares when she entered rooms, the sudden silence when she passed by. She pushed through it, focusing on her work. But she knew jealousy was growing in the shadows. The tension in the hotel staff rooms was growing. Every time Aaliyah walked into the break area, the chatter slowed and side eyes followed her. She ignored it as best she could, keeping her head down. She wasn't at Jefferson Grand to make friends, she was here to survive. But one person couldn't stand her success. Tanya, the senior cleaner, who had been with the hotel for years, simmered with resentment. In her mind, promotions were supposed to come with seniority, not be handed overnight to some girl from South Ridge. Late one evening, when the supply room was nearly empty, Tanya made her move. She unscrewed one of the bottles of cleaning solution and replaced it with a slippery mixture she knew would cause problems. With a cruel smirk, she shoved the bottle back on the shelf and walked out as if nothing had happened. The next morning, Aaliyah was assigned to polish the marble lobby floor. She worked carefully, double-checking her supplies. But within hours, chaos broke out. An older guest slipped hard in the lobby, their cane clattering across the floor. "Who cleaned this area?" the manager barked. Heads turned, fingers pointed. Aaliyah did. Her stomach dropped. She stood frozen as the manager's voice rose. "This is unacceptable. Do you realize the lawsuit this could bring? One more mistake like this, Brooks, and you're out." Her throat tightened. "Sir, I swear I used the right cleaner. I would never." "No excuses," he snapped. "Leave. We'll deal with this later." Tears threatened to spill, but she held them back. She gathered her supplies and walked out of the lobby, humiliation burning through her. From a quiet corner of the lobby cafe, Malik had been watching. He had seen the guest fall. He had seen the way Aaliyah shrank under the weight of false blame. And he had also noticed Tanya's suspicious glance. He pulled out his phone. "Check the security cameras," he ordered his assistant. Hours later, the footage confirmed his suspicion. Tanya had switched the bottles. The truth was undeniable. By evening, the hotel manager summoned Aaliyah back into his office. His tone was different this time, uncomfortable, almost apologetic. Brooks, he muttered, avoiding her eyes. It seems there was an error. You weren't responsible. The real culprit has been identified. You're cleared. Aaliyah gasped softly. Sir, thank you. Don't thank me. Just be more careful who you trust, he said awkwardly. She left the office trembling, relief flooding her body. Tears streamed down her cheeks, not of shame this time, but of release. She hadn't lost her job. Her name was clear. From across the hall, Malik watched her walk out, wiping her eyes. His chest tightened again. She doesn't even know I saved her, he thought. But one day, she will. That same evening, Sierra scrolled through her social media. Her perfectly painted nails tapped angrily against her phone screen. A photo of her Lexus SUV had gone viral. Though her face wasn't visible, captions called out her arrogance. Some people think money erases manners. The post had been reshared hundreds of times, with comments piling in. Disgusting. Entitled. Who laughs at a working woman like that? Sierra slammed her phone down. Who's spreading this nonsense? She snapped at her assistant. Kendra hesitated before answering. Maybe you should just apologize. Sierra let out a bitter laugh. Apologize? To a janitor? Please, I don't even remember her face. But her bravado had cracks now. Deep down, unease gnawed at her. Back at Jefferson Grand, Aaliyah noticed a shift. Some staff who once whispered behind her back now greeted her with polite nods. A few even smiled. Tanya, however, wasn't seen for 2 weeks, suspended without pay. Though Aaliyah held no grudge, she quietly avoided the break room gossip, keeping to herself. She'd learned it was safer that way. That afternoon, Malik walked into the hotel, this time not in disguise. His tall frame and sharp presence caught Aaliyah's attention immediately as she arranged flowers in the lobby. You again, she said softly, a small smile tugging at her lips. You really must like this hotel. I like watching things grow, Malik replied, his gaze steady. She tilted her head curiously. You're not just another guest, are you? He chuckled. You're smart. Extending his hand, he said, Malik Carter. I'm part of the group that owns Jefferson Grand. Her eyes widened, shock flashing across her face. You're the Malik Carter? Just Malik, he said gently. And yes, I've been watching. Not in a creepy way, he added quickly, grinning. Aaliyah laughed nervously, still unsure how to process it. Malik's voice softened. I saw what happened that day. The car, the water, the way you kept walking. You didn't deserve it, and I couldn't forget it. Her smile faded slightly, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. Malik raised his hand gently. You don't have to say anything. Just know, I see you. That night, Aaliyah walked home, her heart racing, not from fear this time, but from hope. For the first time in years, someone powerful had looked at her and seen more than a cleaner. The following morning, as she made her way to work, a car slowed beside her. Her stomach dropped. It was Sierra. The tinted window rolled down, and Sierra's smirk appeared beneath her oversized sunglasses. You're Aaliyah, right? She asked smoothly. Yes, Aaliyah answered carefully. You've caused quite the stir, Sierra said with a bitter smile. Now people think I'm some villain. And you're playing the victim beautifully. I must say, it's working. Aaliyah's brows furrowed. I never wanted pity. I just want to work in peace. Sierra laughed coldly. Do you really think Malik sees you? Sweetheart, men like him get bored fast. Don't confuse attention with affection. Then she rolled up her window and drove off, leaving Aaliyah standing on the sidewalk, shaken, but not broken. The hotel cafe buzzed quietly with the hum of mid-morning guests. Aaliyah walked in for her short break, still replaying Sierra's cruel words in her head. Her nerves tightened when she noticed Malik sitting at a corner table, a folder resting in front of him. Come sit, he said warmly, gesturing to the chair across from him. What's this? She asked cautiously, nodding at the folder. He slid it toward her. A scholarship, full tuition for hospitality management at Eastview College. Starts next month. You'd still be able to work part-time here while you study. Her eyes widened. What? No, this can't be real. It's very real, Malik said softly. Her hands trembled as she opened the folder. Everything was there. The acceptance letter, tuition coverage, even a small living stipend. But why me? She whispered. Because you never asked for anything, Malik replied. And yet, you've earned everything. Tears pricked her eyes, blurring the words on the page. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything, Malik said, his gaze steady. Just take the chance, you deserve it. Across the room, Sierra sat hidden behind a pair of dark glasses, watching them from a distance. Her stomach churned with fury. That one splash of water, something she thought was a joke, had set off a chain of events she could no longer control. That night, Aaliyah sat on the rooftop garden of Jefferson Grand, the scholarship folder resting in her lap. The city lights glimmered below, but nothing compared to the warmth swelling in her chest. She thought of her late mother, of all the nights she had worked herself to exhaustion, of the whispered promises to Naomi that life would one day get better. Her prayers hadn't gone unheard. Malik appeared quietly, carrying 2 steaming cups of cocoa. He set one beside her. "You're quiet," he said. "I'm just overwhelmed," Aaliyah admitted, blinking back tears. "Is this really happening?" "Yes," Malik said, "because you earned it." She turned to him. "I used to believe people like you didn't even see people like me." "I didn't always," he admitted. His voice softened, his eyes distant. "But watching you reminded me of my mother. She cleaned houses when I was a boy, raised me on her own. She never complained, no matter how tired she was. You have that same strength." Aaliyah's lips parted slightly. She hadn't expected vulnerability from someone like him. For the first time, she saw not just the billionaire, but the son who remembered where he came from. The following week, during the staff meeting, the hotel director announced Aaliyah's scholarship. For a brief moment, the entire room clapped, some with genuine pride, others with forced smiles. A few even stood in applause. But not everyone celebrated. At the Whitfield estate, Sierra slammed her phone onto the table. "Why is everyone talking about her?" she demanded. "She's just a maid. I've built an empire of fashion and luxury, and Malik barely noticed. Now he's handing her scholarships like she's royalty?" Her father, a stern man whose patience was thinning, set down his pen. "Because she earned it, Sierra. The respect, the recognition, all of it." "And me," Sierra snapped. "You still have a lot of growing up to do," he said coldly. For once, Sierra had no retort. That evening, Malik walked Aaliyah home. The soft glow of the streetlights bathed the cracked sidewalks as they talked quietly, their laughter echoing in the stillness. At the gate of her building, the door creaked open and Naomi rushed out, her braids bouncing as she smiled wide. "Leah!" she cried, throwing herself into her sister's arms. "Naomi, you should be in bed!" Aaliyah scolded playfully. "I heard you laughing," Naomi said, her eyes sparkling. Then she turned toward Malik. "Is he your friend?" Malik bent slightly and offered a warm smile. "Hi, Naomi. I've heard a lot about you." Aaliyah's heart softened. She hugged her sister close. "She's my everything," she said quietly. Malik looked at them, 2 sisters holding each other up in a world that had given them so little. Something inside him shifted deeper than admiration. When Naomi finally went back inside, Aaliyah and Malik lingered at the gate. The night was hushed, the city humming softly around them. "This all started with dirty water," Malik said with a faint smile. "But maybe it ends with something beautiful." Aaliyah's heart fluttered, her voice barely a whisper. "Maybe it's just the beginning." Within days, her story spread beyond the hotel. A local blog picked it up, titling it, "From Rainwater to Rising Star, the Cleaner Who Inspired a CEO." It went viral almost instantly. Thousands of comments poured in. "This is real inspiration. Finally, a story of kindness that matters. She deserves the world." Aaliyah was stunned. She hadn't asked for attention, only for a chance. But now, people across the city, and even beyond, were watching her journey. But Sierra wasn't finished. Rage burned hotter with each headline she saw. Desperate to destroy Aaliyah's growing reputation, she reached out to a shady blogger. Within days, an article appeared online claiming that Aaliyah was Malik's secret girlfriend, that she had schemed her way into his life for money. The post spread like wildfire. Back at the hotel, Aaliyah felt the whispers return. Cold stares followed her down the halls. Even co-workers who had applauded days before now looked at her with suspicion. During lunch, she sat alone in the corner, scrolling through the article. Her heart sank with every cruel word. Unable to hold back tears, she packed her things and left early, retreating to her tiny apartment. But Malik wasn't about to let her face this storm alone. The next day, he stood at a press conference, cameras flashing in his face. He adjusted the microphone and spoke with calm certainty. "Aaliyah Brooks is not a gold digger. She is the most hardworking, honest woman I have ever met. Anyone who doubts her character should question their own values, whether they prize money or heart. The crowd erupted in applause. The headlines shifted instantly. In her small apartment, Aaliyah covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. For the first time in her life, someone powerful had stood before the world, not just to notice her, but to defend her. That evening, a knock came at her door. A small package sat on the step, a single red rose and a note. Let the world whisper. I'll always speak your truth. Her hands shook as she held the rose to her chest. She wasn't just being seen anymore. She was being chosen. The months that followed were a whirlwind. Aaliyah balanced her shifts at Jefferson Grand with evening classes at Eastview College. She studied late into the night after putting Naomi to bed, determined not to waste the opportunity. Her professors praised her discipline, her creativity, and her natural leadership. At work, managers began seeking her input on guest relations and even event planning. For the first time, her voice carried weight. She was no longer invisible. Meanwhile, Sierra's world began to crumble. The fake article about Aaliyah had been traced back to her. Furious, her father froze her credit cards, revoked her privileges, and suspended her from the family's company board. You didn't just humiliate yourself, he told her sternly. You embarrassed our entire family. Respect isn't bought with handbags, Sierra. It's earned. For once, she had no comeback. The silence in her penthouse was louder than any crowd of admirers she used to command. One evening, Malik invited Aaliyah out, not as her benefactor, but simply as a man. He arrived in a modest sedan, no chauffeurs or security in sight. They dined on the rooftop of a small bistro overlooking the skyline, the air warm with the scent of grilled food and fresh flowers. You've changed me, Aaliyah, Malik admitted, his tone unguarded. You reminded me of what matters. She lowered her gaze, cheeks warming. I still don't understand why you picked me. He reached across the table, his hand brushing hers. Because in a world full of noise, your silence spoke the loudest. And I heard you. For the first time, she let herself believe it. Not just in his words, but in herself. A week later, as they walked home hand in hand, Malik stopped at a familiar spot. The stretch of road where Sierra's SUV had once drenched Aaliyah in dirty rainwater. This was where it all began, Malik said quietly. The day she tried to humiliate you. Aaliyah looked down at the pavement, her smile faint but steady. She splashed me with water. But you planted a seed. And now, Malik said with pride in his eyes, you're blooming. They didn't need more words. Their silence spoke volumes. 1 year later, Jefferson Grand Hotel hosted a grand gala, celebrating its 20th anniversary. The ballroom glittered under crystal chandeliers, violins played softly, and the city's most powerful figures filled the room. When Aaliyah entered, dressed in a flowing teal gown with no designer label, the atmosphere shifted. Heads turned, some whispered, but most clapped softly in respect. She no longer needed diamonds to shine. Her presence was enough. Malik stood proudly by her side, his gaze fixed on her as if she were the only one in the room. The hotel director stepped up to the microphone. Tonight, we honor someone who has shown us that strength and humility can change lives. Please welcome Aaliyah Brooks. The applause swelled as Aaliyah walked onto the stage. She accepted the plaque with trembling hands before facing the crowd. A year ago, she began, her voice steady. I was just a young woman walking to work in worn-out sneakers, carrying hope in one hand and responsibility in the other. One cruel act and one kind act changed my life. And tonight, I stand here not because I was lucky, but because I refused to stop moving forward. She glanced at Malik. Because someone believed in me before I believed in myself, and because kindness is louder than status. The room fell silent, touched. Even the hotel staff in the back stood taller, pride shining in their eyes. Later that night, after the gala, Aaliyah slipped out to the quiet street where it had all begun. The cracked road had since been repaved, smooth and clean. She slipped off her heels and walked barefoot across it, the cool pavement grounding her. Malik joined her, removing his shoes and stepping beside her, equal and unpretentious. What are you doing? He asked softly. Leaving behind the last trace of who I used to be, she whispered, and stepping fully into who I am now. Side by side, they walked forward, silently but powerfully. Not just as two people in love, but as proof that even when life throws mud, a flower can bloom. and blooms so brightly that the world has no choice but to notice. Sometimes life splashes mud on us when we least expect it. But what truly matters is how we rise from it. Aaliyah's story reminds us that strength, kindness, and perseverance can turn even humiliation into honor. What about you? Have you ever faced a moment where life tried to keep you down, but you stood tall? Share your story in the comments. Your words might inspire someone else today. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button to support more stories like this. Comment below with what lesson you're taking away. Share this video with someone who needs hope right now. And most importantly, subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss another powerful story of transformation, justice, and hidden strength.